Welcome to World of Warcraft Classic Wrath of the Lich King. And I want to talk to you a little bit about why I think the Ret Paladin is one of the best classes for just overall having fun. I mean, look at the stats at the top. I'm still in Crusader Aura. I don't have the best gear. Look at my mana efficiency. Look at my health. And how well that's going. Okay? So we've got speed of kill, which is pretty decent. We've got some decent health, instant heal because of the proc there. Didn't really take much damage at all, so that results in next to no downtime. And the reason for that is there's a couple of skills in Retribution that help with mana. Or rather, there's a couple of things that help with mana. So Judgment of the Wise, you're damaging judgment spells. So that's when you do like your Judgment of Light or anything else, okay? Any of the judgments there. It gives you a 100% chance once you've maxed it out 3 out of 3 points of replenishing you and up to 10 party or raid members mana regeneration equal to 1% of their maximum mana per 5 seconds for 15 seconds. And to immediately grant 25% of your base mana. When you tack that on with the glyph of Seal of Command, which that's Blessing of Might, and then, you can pick your seal, right? Well, what happens with this cheap little glyph here, which is a major glyph, you gain 8% of your base mana each time you use Judgment, but with Seal of the Command active, which is this one here. So as a result of that, it makes it so that mana is a non-issue. I love Prot Paladin, like as a whole, it's just a lot of fun, okay? But unfortunately, it's not the most mana efficient. I don't care what anybody says. If you go, look at that, boom. If you go ahead and you play like a Prot Warrior, or you play a Blood Death Knight, or you do Feral Druid, or Guardian, I call it Guardian, but that didn't come till later. Essentially, like, I'm sorry, there's no downtime. You got to be careful with Prot Paladin. You're going to have a lot of people, and they're going to go all goosey and hog wild. And you know what? I don't care what they say. Nothing changes the fact that you can't just go completely cray-cray and find yourself not having problems. It's impossible. The other thing that's really cool is you could kind of pull a little bit with your Hand of Reckoning, and it causes damage. It's just really, really fun, too, to play with all the visuals. Everything is really flashy. And another thing I want to note, but I can't really make a video on it, although I've kind of talked about it before, is when you're Holy Paladin, arguably, that is the... Now, let me finish the sentence. That is the best healing spec in the game that can do DPS, and again, without really running out of mana. So, Prot Paladin's not bad. It's a lot of fun. It just overall fun factor, Prot Paladin's a lot of fun. Shitty downtime, but fine. It's fun. Ret Paladin, I mean, you're seeing it happening, like, right now. It's just incredibly powerful. Like I said, low downtime. See? You want to pull... You can do that. Good AoE. It's visually impressive. And the Holy Paladin is going to be something that with your shield and your weapon, when you go in there, you're going to cause an actual half-decent amount of damage. And you're practically, with Blessing of Wisdom and Seal of... Is it Seal of Righteousness? I don't remember the one. Mind you, this video is not really about that. A Seal of Wisdom. Sorry. You just get so much mana back. Like I said, it's absolutely, nuts. There are other healing classes that just don't do well. Like if, to back it up. Let's say you want to play a Resto Balance or a Resto Shaman, right? What happens there is you're going to run out of mana real effing quick. And the main reason for that is the skills that you're using as a healing druid and a healing shaman. You're not using actual healing spells. Do you see what I mean by that? Whereas when you're on your paladin and you're holy, you're actually using holy skills. So all those mana reduction cost things for the spells as well really aid in that. But it's a lot to do with just the mechanics overall of the paladin. Again, for both is as a healing paladin and a melee damage paladin. It's just, like I said, an absolute blast. I can't get enough of it. I've been playing every class for several years, and yes, I'm still in Crusader Aura form. That's perfectly okay. You can use some different weapons. What I was going to say, I was looking for the words there for a second because I was a little bit distracted. If you look, we got to look at melee. Obviously, I can't compare it to like a frost mage or something like that because they can AoE. But if you look at another melee class, any other melee class really, that's not a tank, so you can't use like a prot warrior. I'm talking like either like rogue or something with just melee. I don't think really anybody else has good sustained damage, but that can also heal properly. Warriors can be incredibly powerful, but they're just overall not going to have the complete resiliency that the paladins have, right? Like they just don't have it. They're not as visually impressive with their skills as well. They're a lot of fun, don't get me wrong. But all in all, for a class that can have like a lot of diversity and still not have the mana issues and still actually be half decent at the DPS, Holy Paladin, Red Paladin is just, for me, one of the absolute best. Now, the one for me that would be number one, if you're curious to know, I mean, my Feral... Oh, let's actually, you know what? Let's even talk about the Feral Druid. What's interesting about Feral Druid is I couldn't get quite as hog wild here as I did on my Feral Druid, and we're talking about with similar gear score and like level. Like I've taken all of those, you know, stats into consideration, otherwise it wouldn't be fair. Even the Feral Druid in cat form, not as good as the Red Paladin. Now, as soon as I went into bear form, I could pull an absolute gigantuous amount of enemies. Okay, so Feral Druid again, but in bear form, is absolutely just monstrous. I've tried Enhanced Shaman, Elemental Shaman, just the whole thing. And in terms of speed of leveling, again, just taking every single thing into consideration. Paladin and Druid, like just that quick glance. Things like Rogue for me, and I know a lot of people aren't going to like this, but in terms of like the speed of leveling, the ease of soloing, you know, even really difficult bosses or elites or whatever, I'm telling you, Druid and Paladin. I can't think of another. I don't think even Enhanced Shaman. They can be badass. Actually, Enhanced Shaman at one point, when I was playing it there side by side with my Paladin, my Shaman now, my Tauren Shaman's like 61, almost 62. It's not too far behind. As enhancement, again, I mean, sure, he does great. He can actually kill quicker, but the downtime's just absolutely gross with the mana. And when you do start taking a shellacking, I mean, it's pretty bad. Like, I mean, I don't even have my frickin' Devotion aura on here, and I'm just dropping them. Like, I mean, what the hell was that? And again, my gear, there's no heirlooms. I've just got like greens. A lot of my stuff is not even all that great at all. Like, look at my gear. I'm not twinked out here. Right? Like, now we could say, well, these are level 64, 63, or level 65. great. But again, I've taken that into consideration again with every other class that I've ever played. And this is not as well for just like Outlands, right? This is also like Azeroth, like the base game. Because sometimes things change as you level up, and certain classes will be really strong at certain levels and then a little bit weaker later on, and vice versa. And that can happen sometimes, and it can be, you know, a little bit frustrating, because ultimately in the end what matters is how something is at max level, right? Well, I've played the Paladin at max level, okay? Like I've been there. And then also on the public test realm as a holy Paladin as well, just in case you're wondering. And that's with Classic, not just when it was retail back in the day, because some internal things may have changed. I can't really prove it, but I do still feel like there's something about Classic Wrath of the Lich King that feels a little bit easier than when it was retail. And it's not because I have more experience. So you can take that as you will with a grain of salt or whatever. So yeah, hopefully, I know this video is a bit long and I'm just kind of rambling on, but to recap, the main things that give you a lot of mana is under the Retribution, is that Judgment of the Wise. That's an absolute massive game changer. And at the very beginning, I brought to your attention Glyph, a seal of command, and so therefore my blessing that I use tends to be Blessing of Might. And then I also have the minor one so that it gives me a full half-hour buff. Unlike, you know, every other class in the game that can give 30-minute buffs to others, this one only applies to you. And then for the seal, I use Seal of Command because of that extra 8% base mana every time I judge. And again, judge is, you know, like Judgment of Light, and you know, I can't really think of them off the top of my head there, and that's what usually happens. There we go, Judgment of Wisdom. So that's what I was saying earlier with the Holy. I was doing Judgment of Wisdom, Seal of Wisdom, and then using Greater or Blessing of Wisdom. Everything that has to do with mana, right? So here you have a chance to restore 2% of your base mana when you're Holy. I'm just kind of talking about it just briefly there, not really getting into it too deep. And then obviously, whether it's Greater or the regular Blessing of Wisdom, you get 41 mana every 5 seconds. And then obviously that changes per rank because it'll get better as you go on. And then your Seal of Wisdom, the seal that you would use is like instead of Seal of Command there. I mean, you could probably use it, but I use Seal of Wisdom as a Holy Paladin now. Give each melee attack a chance to restore 4% of the Paladin's maximum mana. Right, so you could probably mix it up. You do Seal of Command with the Glyph, and then do Blessing of Wisdom, and do the other thing here that I talked about. And that should do you pretty good, because I know that it has, for me, and it's been an absolute just game changer. Because it comes to a point where some classes are just so slow, I have a hard time playing as them. One of my favorite ultimate, I mean, apart from like the whole Druid Paladin thing, like one of my other near top-notch classes that are just so fun to play for all 3 specs, and that's the Shaman. I'm absolutely in love with my Shaman. It's just too bad that, you know. And again, I've played both. I've done both. You know, the melee and the ranged. And it's just, I mean, it's coming to a point now with some slightly better gear that Elemental seems to be a little bit better. It may have a little bit more downtime because of the drinking there. You can get actually half decent mana efficiency as Enhancement Shaman, but definitely nothing compared to anything else that you're gonna play. Again, Rogue to me, I mean, Rogue is special. The whole stealth thing, the Vanish for world PvP. I mean, I played Rogue through and through nearly for 2 decades, okay? Like, I mean, I have a lot of experience. And I'm sorry, when it comes to leveling, downtime, and all that, I don't care if you have good gear or not. Sure, it'll make a difference. They could be fast in some ways, especially like if you're in a group setting But if you're like by yourself soloing, I'm sorry, you're not gonna do what my paladin, what my druid does, hell, even my shaman does, okay? You're not gonna do it. And I don't care if you say that you can, because you can't. It's just not gonna happen. I don't want to make this video too long. I know that I did a lot of rambling, but as I mentioned at the start of the video, I showcased very quickly what makes this class so good for the mana efficiency, just like everything. And hopefully this was sorta kinda, you know, sorta kinda useful-ish. Maybe. I know it's a little late into the life of, you know, World of Warcraft, but I mean, it's never too late to share with people why it is you feel something about a class and why people should maybe check it out if they haven't potentially considered it in the past. So if you liked the video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up. It does help that channel with the algorithm. And if you didn't like it, go ahead, give it a thumbs down, and I'll send one of those things after you in your sleep tonight. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, naturally, that would be great. I predominantly do play a lot of World of Warcraft, where I just do boring stuff like this, where I just kind of play around and kind of take people along for the ride, sort of like a gaming vlog, if you will. I don't necessarily do anything all that spectacular. You know, I'm not soloing twos in arena or anything like that. Just more of a calm thing. I used to, like I said, get really hog wild with the world PvP and all that, and arenas, and doing high-rated stuff, going for Gladiator, Duelist, Rival, and all that, and some of those titles of which I have achieved multiple times in the past. I just don't care to be at that level anymore. It takes a lot of work, and it's not because I'm older. It's because I got other shit to do. I manage multiple YouTube channels, and I don't just play World of Warcraft 16, 17 hours a day like I used to. I do a lot of simulator games, anything that has to do with like driving or just simulation games like The Sims. So I kind of throw in The Sims, let's say American Truck Simulator, you know, Forza Horizon, even though that's not really a simulation game. It's more arcadey. It still falls in that realm of your simulating driving, whatever. So driving games, flying game, you know, all that kind of stuff. That's a lot more what I'm into now, along with sports. And then I got my dedicated wrestling channel, which is completely separate. So basically, you know, FIFA football, NHL, Madden football, golf, driving games of all genres, and World of Warcraft. And that kind of, even though it's a little bit of an odd mix, that sort of encompasses what I'm predominantly about on my channel when I play games. And then, of course, I do like patch notes and, you know, some vague first impression reviews of all video games that I purchase as well. Okay? So there you have it. Take care, and maybe I'll see some of you in the next video. Bye for now.